The war in Ukraine, lockdowns in China, and rising consumer prices are threatening to push the global economy to the brink of a recession. That's according to the International Monetary Fund's updated World Economic Outlook released this week. The lender says global economic growth will slow this year to 3.2%. It's a downgrade from the fund's projection in April and much lower than last year's expansion of more than 6%. And officials are warning that global prospects could still get much worse, possibly leading to another major economic slump only 2 years since the one caused by the pandemic.
The risks to the outlook are overwhelmingly tilted to the downside. Let me mention a few of them. First, the war in Ukraine could lead to a sudden stop of European gas flows from Russia. Second, inflation could remain stubbornly high if labor markets remain overly tight, inflation expectations de-anchor, or disinflation proves more costly than expected. Third, tighter global financial conditions could induce a surge in debt distress in emerging market and developing economies.
Now, for more, let's go to David Madden, market analyst at Equiti in London. Welcome back to the program, David. Now, so soon after the pandemic and with inflation at record levels in many economies, the US, Europe, and China including, just how equipped are governments right now to confront another recession?
To be perfectly honest, not very well. One of the main issues surrounding the crisis is high levels of inflation, as covered in your intro, and this predominantly comes from high levels of high energy prices, high food prices, largely down to the war in Ukraine. We're still dealing with the impacts of the supply chain problems from the pandemic. We're still reeling from the problems associated with the relatively recent lockdowns in China. So these are all issues that are mostly outside of the control and the control and the governance of various different governments. Now, what they can do in some cases, they could alleviate the higher costs with tax cuts, or perhaps even relief on the excises and taxes imposed on energy. But to a certain extent, that'll only help consumers and shoppers to a certain extent. The big picture issues, the uncertainty over what's going to happen with gas prices. Is there going to be continuing flows of gas from Russia into mainland Europe throughout the winter? Are we going to have further kind of lockdowns and restrictions surrounding China? When are we going to get back to pre-pandemic level in terms of supply chain flows? These are all issues that are beyond the control of the government, and these are the issues that are really weighing on sentiment and are the driving factors behind the likes of the IMF downgrade.
Right. So you mentioned it there, the rising cost of energy and natural gas prices reached their highest since 2008 because of Russia's decision to cut the flow of gas to Europe down to a trickle pretty much. So what can European nations do? You mentioned tax cuts, but it's not really an issue of price, is it? It's the actual supply. They need the gas to burn, and they're willing to pay if they have it.
You're absolutely right. It isn't down to price. Any kind of tax cuts or a relief on fuel will only do a certain amount of benefit. We've already seen proposals by the European Union to have an across the board cut gas usage by up to 15%. One of the most exposed countries in the European Union is Germany. Over 50% of its entire gas imports come from Russia. We've already seen it in recent months. Germany have actually put in place new partnerships with the likes of both Norway and also with Qatar in terms of trying to get alternative energy sources, most notably for both Norway and Qatar. Hydrogen, but also LNG, liquefied natural gas from Qatar as well. But these infrastructure projects and these new pipelines, it will take a long time for it to come on stream. There will be no quick fixes to this. I think in the near term, what's the best way around it will be for a broad EU-wide cut and decline in use of gas.
All right. David Madden from Equiti in London. Thank you for joining the program.
Thank you.